Take a look at the Bridgestone Arena, Nashville, Tennessee, home of the Predators. And this is where the Calgary Flames find themselves at the tail end of a 2-game and 2-night road trip. Taking a look at our starting goalies, brought to you by Intact Insurance. Your home, your auto, your business. Ask your broker about Intact Insurance Company. Karri made 23 saves to collect his first career shutout, 2-0 over Carolina last night, giving Calgary its first no goals allowed performance since February 18th of 2012. Carter Hutton is a 28-year-old free agent Nashville signed in the offseason, looking for his first win in 1 month. He's actually winless in his last 6 outings. Michael Backlund got the A prior to last night's game. Bob Hartley talking this morning that really embraced that opportunity to be a leader. Not a permanent leadership role, but nonetheless in the short term it looks awfully good on number 11. Underway is TJ Brodie back to get it. Brodie and Chris Butler have quite a contingency of fans here at this game tonight, as you see a number of red number 7 jerseys in the crowd. Backlund picking up the puck. Goals in consecutive games for Michael Backlund, feeling a little pressure from Wilson. Now it's picked up and Giordano lead pass out to center. Hudler tips it by Weber. Backlund trying to gain some form if he can, but Shea Weber in the way, using that good active stick of his. Vladislav Schmid will roll it back into the Predators' end. Weber's there. Hudler just trying to agitate him, see if he'll turn over the puck. Schmid gets it, and he'll play it deep down into Nashville territory. Matt Stajan off the bench and into the play. His pass goes awry, and Hornqvist will get it out.
Cautious start here for the Flames, which is all right. They're trying to build off of that big win in Carolina last night, and Nashville trying to get themselves back on track here at home.
Stealing the puck is Spalling, and a shot up high. Ramos stops that. Nick Spalling getting an early shot in the Flames netminder. Eric Nystrom behind the net. It's picked up. A little cycle going here for Nashville. It comes back to the point and off the skate of Ellis. Klein comes over and he gets it in behind the Flames net. Shot from Ellis. That one screams wide. Klein keeping it in. Now Chris Butler will pick it up for the Flames off the boards, but not out, as Matt Cullen was there. Karri in the trapezoid. Up the wall. Gagliardi is there. And his pass. A little off the mark, but coming over and clearing it was Lance Boma.
Nashville, as they normally do, they get out, they get that puck deep. Nothing really fancy about their game. They're north-south, and they just like to get that puck in deep, and they're not afraid to shoot the puck.
That pass by the Predators goes for icing. Keys to the game are brought to you by Budweiser. Great games are waiting.
The Calgary Flames, they cannot be outworked by a hard-working team here in Nashville. And for the Predators, they can't be outworked from a very hard-working team in Calgary. It's both the same. They're the same type of teams that have to really generate a lot of their scoring chances just by good old-fashioned work.
David Legwand, longest-serving member of the Predators, his pass. Ahead to Smith. Craig Smith avoids the check from Giordano behind the net, trying to come out in front to Bourque. Smith gets it back. Blocked off by Brodie. Predators maintain control. They've had a slight territorial advantage to start this one. Now the puck turned over. Legwand with it. Drops it to the point. Here's the rookie Seth Jones. Bourque. Watched by Giordano. Trying to pin him along the boards. Now Smith back out in front, but Mark Giordano in the way. And he gets it to Paul Byron, tipping it out to center. Ekholm. Pass intercepted by Monahan, but he can't take it to where he wanted to go. Why? Colborne was trapped offside, so the Flames will make a line change.
Flames better get used to this type of game and compete shift for shift against Nashville, because there's no really quit in Nashville. Barry Trotz has done a very good job in his coaching career here with the Predators.
Ryan McGrattan tipping it out. He'll pick it up and bring it across the line. McGrattan shoots, and Hutton forced to make his first save.
Basket of half-eaten zucchini sticks from the win known as Money Monday.
Pick your winners today with Pools.
Brian McGrattan utilizing his size and some pretty good speed there for the big man. Gets a shot off as he's able to pick up that loose puck inside the Nashville Predator blue line.
Played 32 games for the Predators over parts of 2 seasons before coming to Calgary last year. Ben Street to take the face-off in there with one of the league's best, Paul Gaustad. And it's the Predators coming up with the puck. Shane O'Brien tried to keep it alive. Now it's picked up 2-on-1. Here come the Preds. Stallberg makes his move, side of the net. And Ramo was there. Victor Stallberg hung on to it, and he ran out of room. Shot blocked in front, and Calgary will get it out. Westgarth has to go back to get the puck, takes a bump, and he'll keep moving it north. Shots 2-1 in favor of Nashville, but so far they've spent the majority of the time down in the Calgary end, haven't they?
They just work hard. They keep that puck deep. They have to rely on their rotation and give and go in the corners and try to free someone in the slot area or get a shot from the point.
Stempniak shot off the blocker of Hutton. Hoodler after it, won't get to it. Now coming over Hornquist. Pinched along the boards by fellow countryman Michael Backlund, but the Preds get it out. Mike Fisher to Weber. Tries to trailer Hornquist, and that shot goes wide. Comes back to Josi. Over to Weber, into the middle, and Hornquist turned away by Ramo. Patrick Hornquist didn't get a lot on that shot. Perhaps the most dangerous shooter up front for Nashville.
Him and Mike Fisher, both of them have been hot as of late, even though Hornquist is coming back from a slight lower body injury, as they said, and he's getting himself back in shape. Pretty good opportunity here for Stallberg. Ben Street right here, supposed to be the third man back, gets caught a little bit. This sets up a 2-on-1, as we saw the other night. Dennis Weidman forcing the Predator player to shoot the puck. He takes away the pass, and that allows the goaltender, Kari Ramo, to come up with a big save and hold the fort until the reinforcements get there.
TJ Galiardi after the puck. Flames trying to hem the Predators in. Wilson gets it, and he'll stick handle it out across the line. Calgary get the puck back, and Lance Boma into Nashville territory, working it against Weber, but it's Shea Weber shielding the puck. Josi gives it away. TJ Brody at the blue line. His shot off the blocker of Hutton. Hornquist dumping it into the Flames end. Ramo's going to come out and play it. Predators making a change, so that gave the Flames a little extra room as Galiardi gains the red line. Plays it in, staging after it. Hutton has to wait for it, and he'll play it back over to Ryan Ellis. A lot of tempo early on here. Puck goes to the middle. Klein jumping into the rush, and he got it to the crease, and the net's off. And we've got an interference call, and it looks like the Predators are going to go to an early power play.
Eric Nystrom going hard to the net on that 3-on-2. Matt Stajan getting a little bit overly aggressive, sends the former Flame winger into the net. So the Predators will get an opportunity on the power play, and this is where they're very dangerous on the power play. Here's as it develops, and there's Matt Stajan just getting very aggressive, taking Eric Nystrom right to the net, and that's what you call taking him right to the net.
Game 5 of a 5-game homestand for the Nashville Predators. They're 0 for 8 with the man advantage on the homestand. And talking to Barry Trotz today, concerned about not drawing penalties, not creating power play opportunities. They get an early one against the Flames.
They're the type of team that can create those opportunities, but for them to do that, they have to be engaged as far as getting into high traffic areas, much like Nystrom did there, and skating. You have to skate to draw penalties.
At stage in 2 minutes for interference. Predators go to work. Puck off the glass. Shea Weber is the catalyst for the man advantage for Nashville. Leaves them in power play goals and power play points. Michael Backlund. He'll dump it down the ice.
Well, pretty safe to say that there will be a Flame player very close to that number 6, because that is their main bread and butter play. It all orchestrates from that big cannon from the point.
And the cannon has it. Moves it quickly. Ellis across the line. Back to Shea Weber. He's got room. Tipped in front. And the Predators will play it back to their captain. Weber up and into the mesh. And the faceoff will stay in the Nashville end.
Pretty good job there by Lance Bowman to keep his feet moving. And Weber going to the Olympics again. Congratulations to him. Represented Canada in 2010. You can see by this graphic, he leads along with Carlson, Krug, and Bufflin 10 goals for defensemen. 7 of those 10 coming on the power play with that big shot. So that's the one you really have to watch on that first power play unit.
A minute and 2 seconds to go in the minor to Matt Stajan, and the Predators put their second power play unit on the ice. Flames get the puck, but can't get it by Ryan Ellis. Backlund skated by him. Shot! Oh, that one whistles wide. Ramo at the side of the net has Wilson all over him. And finally, the Flames get the whistle as Colin Wilson parked right on top of Kari Ramo.
Ellis does a very good job at the blue line to hold this clearing pass in. Flames go for a little bit of a minor skate here at the blue line. That's where you have to take the man or the body. Backlund just made the spin, and there's that one-timer off the backboards wide. And then the mustard yellow, would you say that mustard yellow jersey players would go at them?
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yes. Predators, 45 seconds to go in the man advantage. Jones back to Ellis. Here's Seth Jones, one-time member of the Portland Winterhawks. Shot. And I think Ramo caught a piece of that hot offering from the point. Smith down low. It's intercepted. Matt Cullen looking for it. Former Minnesota Wild forward now with the Predators out there on this power play unit, and he's trying to dig the puck free. Now with some room, Ellis shoots. That one's blocked. Butler got in front of it. Now Jones back to Ellis, another shot, and this time Kari Ramo blocks it, and he'll hang on.
Second power play unit with Ellis and Jones to the point, really nearing the number 1 unit from the Predators. They get the shots coming from the point, get it right back to the middle of the ice, and that time Kari Ramo does a good job of looking around the Predator player to pick up that puck and come up with a big save.
10 seconds to go in the first power play of the game for Nashville. Josi shoots, and that one hits Ramos square. And Lee Stempniak with it, he'll dump it down the ice. Carter Hutton will come up and set it up, but the Flames have killed off the first Nashville power play of the game.
Sigh of relief for Matt Stajan. That's one thing you don't want to do when you get on the road, is to give up that first goal against, especially when you're sitting in the penalty box.
Weber pinching in. Keeps the puck alive for Nashville. Ramo out. He'll set it up. Behind the net, Brody has 2 Predators on him. Victor Stahlberg's one of them. But falling in the corner is Matt Hendricks. Gagliardi comes, picks up the puck. Has Weber right behind him. He'll move it to the other side. Flames having a little trouble exiting the zone. Stahlberg back to take it away from Stajan, who was looking for an odd man rush. Hendricks drops it. Weber shoots. And Ramo didn't get all of it, but he got enough of it. And the Predators continue to come in waves. Out shooting Calgary 7-3 here in the first period. Kari Ramos stood tall. Out falling is Hornquist. That allows the Flames to get the puck. Behind the net, Weidman ahead, Joe Colborne. And Shane O'Brien has it. Watched by Colin Wilson. He'll go right up the middle to Monahan. Hoodler shoots. That one's off Klein's skate. Nearly gave it away, and here come Nashville. 3-on-2. Fisher with the puck. Wilson driving the lane. Ramo with the stop. And Calgary pick it up. Joe Colborne has it out to center. All kinds of action here in the first period. Kari Ramo has been terrific as the puck rolls to Carter Hutton, and he'll freeze it. Scoreless in the first. It's TELUS Flames Hockey.
This period brought to you by the redesigned 2014 Toyota Tundra. Tough enough for any project.
We'd like to remind you to play Safeway's $1 Million Score and Win. If any Flames player scores 5 goals in tonight's game, Pauline Kolaraki of Calgary can win $1 million. Shop at Safeway. You could be our next lucky winner right here on Sportsnet.
Flames Energy Line, Ben Street, Kevin Westgarth, Brian McGrattan out there for Bob Hartley. As Street wins the draw, comes back to the point, and Shane O'Brien's shot just misses, picked up by Hendricks. Flips it out, and the officials don't like it.
He was knocked out of the air with a high stick. Face-off coming back just outside the blue line. Hedrick getting the start tonight, rotating with Clune on that left wing on the energy line for Barry Trotz and his Nashville Predators.
Westgard pushing a little bit with the former Blackhawk, Victor Stahlberg. Here's Seth Jones out to center. His shot wide of the net, and it's brought in offside, so it'll come back out. So a couple of quick whistles. Does this, Charlie, would this benefit the Calgary Flames at all? A quick pace by Nashville, some quick whistles, will that slow things down?
Definitely right now, being outshot 9-3, and Nashville controlling the play as far as territorial possession into the offensive zone. They seem to have their skating legs. The Flames did have to play last night and travel, albeit not a very long flight. We still don't get into your hotel room till after midnight, after you've gained that hour.
Hudler tipping it out. It's going to be an icing call, so another quick whistle. And of course the Predators, Charlie, as we mentioned, at home for 5 games, they've really struggled 1-2-1 in this homestand. Haven't scored a lot, got shut out at home against Minnesota on Sunday.
Barry Trotz looking for answers. Again, when you don't have your number one goaltender, that's your go-to guy, and we've seen that so how many years in Calgary with Mika Kiprusoff that you put that guy in behind him, and you've got to have a lot of confidence in some offense.
Shot kicked away by Hutton. After it, Michael Backlund to the point. Giordano goes to the wall, can't get the shot through. The Predators get it. They'll play it out. Not enough for icing. Giordano back. Hill outlet. Brody ahead, tipped out to center. Weber's right there, playing it back into the Calgary end. Mark Giordano tipping it ahead. Backlund. Cross the line. Holds up. His shot into the glove of Hutton, and he will hang on to it. No goals so far at the Bridgestone Arena. Calgary and Nashville.
Canadian Pacific Goals for Kids is proudly sponsored by Canadian Pacific and its 2,700 railroaders based in Calgary. For every Flames goal this season, the Railway will donate $250 to Kidsport and the Flames Even Strength program. Keep scoring Flames and help CP build stronger kids and stronger communities.
Not that long ago, Calgary used to have success here in Nashville. They won 6 in a row, but the Predators have beaten the Flames the last 4 times these two clubs have met here. Calgary trying to change that narrative if they can. Scoreless here in the first period. Puck comes back to the point. Butler shot through, and Hutton was there. No Flames could get the stick on it, couldn't get that deflection. As talked about it in the opening, the Flames firing a lot of pucks from the blue line the last couple of games. Boma pinned along the boards, does get it out in front. That one skipped over Stajan's stick, and Matt Cullen with it. After it, former Flame Eric Nystrom. He takes a body along the boards. Shot towards the net. Rommel with a pad stop. Butler looks ahead, finds TJ Gagliardi. He'll just lay it in. Flames are going to make a line change. Predators out to center. Bourque gives it away. Joe Colborne back to get it. Colborne's second game as a winger. Got moved there prior to the game against Carolina. Looked pretty good last night.
Really did. I thought he utilized his size and his speed very well. Did some very good work along the boards.
Leg one behind the net. There's Colborne to pick it up. Kept in by Ekholm, but Flames get it back. This time it bounces to the blue line. Kept in. No. Offside. Linesman right there. Crowd doesn't like it, but it was real close.
You like it when the official makes it such a quick call and he knows it's offside. And this one wouldn't have been all right other than it rolled up on edge. Right here, you can see it on edge. Well, that was really close from way up here. But you can't get any closer than that linesman right there, 6-7 feet away. But he made the call and he was aggressive on it. So you go with it.
Giordano to the other side. Wilson there for Nashville. Puck comes back to the point. Fisher picks it up in the corner. Now Hornquist. Wrap around. Goes to the dirty part of the ice, but Nobody home for Nashville. Now at the point, Ekholm looking for some room. Can't find it. Monahan can't get it out. And Brody backing him up. Sees a lot of Mike Fisher. Now the Flames get it out. And neatly into the Nashville end. Stempniak looking for Hudler, and Carter Hutton will stop it at the side of the net and draw a face-off.
Hutton was mentioned, one of the three backup goaltenders that they've used here in Nashville this year. 4 total goaltenders. Mazanec has been the best of the three. Magnus Hellberg, who's only played about 12 minutes and 12 seconds. So when you have your number one goaltender like Pecorini go out, and he's been out a long time, as you can see, 30 games, very inflated goals against average, and the save percentage not as good as a quality goaltender like that.
Schmid gets it into the corner. Now Stempniak. Back to Ladislav Schmid. Shot whistles wide, and Cullen will pick it up and play it off the boards. Out to center. Nystrom after it. Schmid tying him up. Spalling. Couldn't come up with the puck. Backlund does. Off the end of his stick, and Cullen right there. Now Backlund getting it to Stempniak. No room. Predators doing a good job of cutting off all exits. Now in front. Spalling. Pocket pick. Nice defensive play by Yuri Hudler as Spalling all alone in the slot.
Especially when you have Shea Weber out there. Hudler really has to favor that right defenseman, not to allow him that shot. So he did a very good job of reading and anticipating that pass.
Puck given away at the blue line into the glove of Kari Ramo. A little flashy there. And Ramo makes the stop.
Backside pressure, we'll talk about. Yuri Hudler's most notably known for his offensive ability. Great little read as he's able to sneak in and pick the pocket of the Predator. Right here, he's out by the point. Nashville gets possession. Spalling wanting to get that shot, wanted to drag and shoot it. And in that time, Yuri Hudler is able to get there quick enough, and there's that flashy save. Off the stick of Paul Gaustad.
Nice block by Boma. Finds Gagliardi. Shot. Hutton kicks that away. Boy, Lance Boma is really becoming good at blocking shots, isn't he? Flames keep it alive. Crowd with a long memory didn't like the fact that wasn't offside. Here come Nashville. Shot by Hendricks, and that's into the glove of Ramo, and he'll hang on as Paul Gaustad introduces himself to a couple of Flames.
Shane O'Brien doing a good job the last couple of games of being a pest, and that's what he's at his best. You really can see the difference, especially last night in Carolina when he got involved. It just discourages the opposing team's players from getting a little bit too quick, too close to the goaltender.
Now, we talked about the crowd, Charlie. They're into this one, aren't they?
They really are. This one's right on the line. They're about the same. One went one way, the call went one way, and that time the Flames get a little bit of a break there, even though they weren't able to establish any kind of offensive threat off of it.
Turnaround shot, dribbles towards the net, picked up by TJ Brody. Crosses blue line, his pass, far side into the middle. Backlund looking for it, trying to charge through, does, and Hutton deflected it behind the net. Now Lee Stempniak. Back to Hudler. Backlund. As Stempniak giving him a little support. Yuri Hudler right in behind the net. Watch him and see how his usage unfolds here. As Stempniak gives it to Backlund. To the point, Giordano, and there's Hudler. Back to Giordano. His shot blocked right onto the stick of Fisher. And hustling to catch up is Roman Josi, but Fisher turned to the boards. Now in on Ramo, and he makes a big stop. Oh, Kari Ramo has been excellent here in the first period, and we are scoreless.
Tomorrow night, you can see the best junior hockey players as a draft preview. The annual BMO Top Prospects game takes place at Scotiabank Saddledome. We'll have it for you on Sportsnet, 7 p.m. Mountain Time.
For
pretty good players that have played in that game in the past playing here tonight. 6th overall, Sean Monahan with 13 goals on the season. And Seth Jones went 4th overall to Nashville. Nice pickup for the Predators to get this experienced defenseman, especially contributing with the 13 assists.
Smith playing it behind the net. Picked up by Chris Butler. Penalty coming up. And it's going to go against Calgary. Another interference call. And the Predators will get a late power play here in the first period.
Matt Stajan again going into the penalty box. He's barking at the referee. Interference call. Trying to alleviate a little bit of the pressure as Butler trying to skate up the ice. You can get in the skating lane. You just can't move yourself all the way across like that to knock down the Nashville Predator player. So you're trying to get out of this period, just keeping the Predators off the board, frustrated a little bit. They've had a very good first period, the Predators, and you don't want to allow them a goal in the last 5 minutes here.
Calgary only faced one Carolina power play last night. They killed it off. They killed off all 3 against Pittsburgh on Saturday at the Dome. But Nashville feast with the man advantage. At least they have so far this season. Spalling, Cullen. Now the puck comes free and Smith gets it back as Seth Jones, watched by Backlund. To the slot, stopped by Ramo. Smith got all of that. Kari Ramo right there. Kari Ramo has been excellent here in the first period. Jones moving it to Ellis. Smith. Back up top. Spalling in front of the Flames netminder. Shot from Ellis. Doesn't make it through. And a face-off coming up, and it looks like it's going to stay in the Calgary end.
Power plays is so good, as you mentioned, for Nashville, and nothing really fancy about their plays. It's a lot of good old-fashioned hard work, getting the puck back to the point and just pounding it at the net with traffic in front of the opposing goaltender. Kari Ramo doing a very good job tonight. Most of these shots that he's faced, and he's faced 13 of them, have come through screens, so he's had to really make that adjustment on the fly.
Now in front of Ramo, a couple of opportunities for Hornqvist. And Patrick Hornqvist stopped by Ramo as Fisher will play it back down low. Legwand comes in, Flames tip it to the corner. Brody after it, trying to get there before Weber. Brody turns around, along the boards, it's kept in. Hornqvist now moving it over to the other side. Shea Weber has it. Back up top, Roman Josi, Weber, one-timer, shoots, scores! 1-0 Nashville.
That is a rocket on a one-timer. You can see the play start to develop. The Flames can't get the puck out. TJ Brody, Gagliardi, I should say, keeps it along the boards right there. Weber moves from right defense over to left defense, which is wheelhouse. The smartest player right here, Mike Fisher. He's getting the heck out of Dodge as he's standing in front of Kari Ramo. He knows what's coming, and it's a rocket up underneath the bar. Should say Hornqvist at that point just gets out of the way at the last second. He's in there long enough to set up the screen, and that's where the shot from Weber just catches the top left corner.
Shea Weber's 11th of the year, his 8th power play goal. And Nashville with an early lead here in the first period. As Byron plays it deep, Joe Colborne after it. Watched on the play by Ekholm, trying to get it back to Monahan. Off the bench is Lance Poma. Seals the wall. Flames looking for the puck. As Joe Colborne in, trying to dig it free, has Seth Jones on top of him. Now Monahan tries to go back to the point, but it's out of the reach of Weidman, and the Flames retreat to the neutral zone. Back home, round the boards. Hendricks will chop it out, and the Flames play it right back in. Weber from Josi and Legwand, and the Predators lead 1-0. Fisher looking to add to that lead. Hornqvist down low. Now it comes to Lee Stempniak. And Hudler drops it. Backlund cross the line to Hudler. Waiting. Yuri Hudler sets up his shot. ricochets to the boards. Now it's back to Stempniak, and Hudler just missed. Backlund to Hudler. Wrapping around, still with it. Watched by Fisher. Hudler moving away. Plays it to Backlund and Stempniak. Now Hudler with a shot. And that one whistled wide. Flames, good pressure. Hornquist off the glass and out. Didn't get any pucks to Hutton. Wilson finds it, has it. Nashville on the charge. Colin Wilson, watched by Giordano, who gets bumped into. Legwand in the way. That frees up Wilson back to the point. Colin Wilson gets it, turns, and Butler has it. Knocked down. Very physical play right now from the Predators. They're all over Calgary.
Skating very well, utilizing the noise from the crowd, and their skating ability has been very good. They've had a couple days to think about their last little streak here.
Leading 1-0, out shooting Calgary 15-7 here in the first period. Here's Ryan Ellis behind his netminder. Finds Klein. Pass ahead. Smith couldn't get it into the Calgary end, so the Flames will come back the other way. Gagliardi in all alone. Boma stopped by Hutton. Oh, what a stop by Carter Hutton. But a brilliant pass from TJ Gagliardi sprung Lance Boma. And Hutton is going to hang on to this as the Flames with their best scoring chance of the game.
Good push back from the Flames after giving up that Weber goal. Lance Boma right here. TJ Gagliardi with the speed. Nice little soft feed. Hutton well out of his net. And what Boma looked like he was trying to get those pads to open up as he came across. Caught the blocker. And Hutton made his best save of the night.
Lance Boma, handful of Calgary Flames who have been really snake-bitten over the last couple of months. 25 games without a goal for Boma. Hudler just missed. Yuri Hudler has points in his last two. Wrap around, comes out in front. Stempniak scores! Calgary tie it at 1.
There's that wake-up call. I think the Weber goal had the Flames back skating. Instead of being on their heels, they got on their toes, and they really made some plays happen the last couple of shifts. Hutton's come up with some big saves. Right here, similar type of page out of the Predators. Use a net. Nice little feed from Hudler. Gets it to Lee Stempniak. Could talk about a sigh of relief for Lee Stempniak to finally get himself a goal. He missed the empty net last night off the post, and yeah, that's a pretty big smile on the face there. And that's a big goal with 1:04 to go here in the first period.
First goal in 17 games for Lee Stempniak. It's his 7th of the season, but more importantly, the Flames tie this game back up here in the first. Ladislav Schmid tipped it to Byron, but it's played back by the Predators. Here's Butler. Monahan across the line, and it's fluttered out to center. Schmid will just dump it in. It rolls off the blocker of Hutton. Butler back to get it. Watched by Fisher. Now Butler off the boards. Wilson takes it. Tries to find some room. Paul Byron's there, and it's back on the stick of Chris Butler. 22 seconds to go here in period number 1. Shots 15-10 in favor of Nashville. Very entertaining period. Lots of up and down. The goal, Stempniak from Hudler and Brody. Now Backlund spinning away from traffic. Looking for that one last chance. Doubtful the Flames will get it as time runs out. But thanks to Lee Stempniak's 7th of the season, and by swiping a free club card, Mike Moores of Calgary has won a Laugustine 10-piece stainless steel cookware set courtesy of Safeway, and Kate Quaker crispy minis or rice cakes. Congratulations, Mike. 1-1 Flames and the Predators through 20 minutes of play.
This period brought to you by the redesigned 2014 Toyota Tundra. Tough enough for any project.
Well Weber on a power play. Stepniak, even strength, his 7th of the year. 1-1. When we come back, more Flames and Predators. 1-1 through 20 minutes of play. Charlie, the Predators taking advantage of maybe their biggest offensive weapon, which is their captain, and the other blue liners. A lot of traffic coming from that blue line, wasn't there?
Lots of shots coming from the blue line, all set up by the energy that Predators started this game with. They really worked well behind the net, setting up rotations, getting the puck back to the point, and then taking the shots from the blue line. They had 2 chances on the power play, so that gives them a little bit more aggressive ability to get that puck at the net, and it all goes back to the big guy, Shea Weber, who will get the only goal on the power play. Boy, you just want to get out of the way of that one. That's just coming at you at about 110 miles an hour. Walked right into it, and to mention the size of Weber, 6'3", 233, really can pound that puck. And Lee Stepniak, December 7th at Edmonton was the last time he was able to find the back of the net. Has to be a big relief for him, and I think you could see the enthusiasm of his teammates after he scored that goal.
And talk about working for your goalie. Led all skaters with 4 shots in the first period. Led all Flames forwards with 7 minutes and 50 seconds of ice time. Gets the goal, and Calgary and the Predators start the second deadlocked at a goal apiece. Shot blocked on the way through. The Flames continue to do that so well. Calgary's second best in the National Hockey League in blocking shots, as Rommel grabs that one out of the air. A face-off coming up.
Rommel, very good first period with the 15 shots on that. A lot of them had to fight through screens to find that loose puck. A lot of traffic in front of them, a lot of bumping and grinding, and that's, again, such an art for goaltenders like that to find those loose pucks. Boy, there's no surprise, isn't it? Ladislav Schmid with another block shot.
Well, the Calgary Flames have 3 players in the top 10 in the National Hockey League in blocking shots. One of them, Chris Russell's been injured for 10 games. Russell back skating, hopes to rejoin the Flames soon. Flames are on this road trip without Mike Camilleri, who suffered a concussion in that loss to Pittsburgh at the Dome on Saturday. Backlund trying to get it out. The Predators continue to buzz and keep it in. Now Calgary get it to the blue line. Jiri Hudler, points in 3 consecutive for Hudler as he picked up the assist on Stepniak's goal. Brody got a helper as well. As Jiri Hudler, the Flames' leading scorer, 38 points on the season now, and of course not going to play for the Czechs at the Olympics.
It's amazing why you don't think that he would not be considered for that. Peter Nedved making the team.
Monahan looking for it. Of course,
thought he'd retired like 15 years ago.
Of course, one point played for Canada at the Olympics in '94. Off the backboard, Spalling. Nice pass, side of the net. Wrap around, and the pad down from Rommel. And he stalled Victor Stahlberg. Actually, that was former Flame Eric Nystrom. He has the puck now. Nystrom's shot flutters into the corner. Eric Nystrom, watched by Monahan, drops it. Spalling, pinned along the boards by Weidman, manages to avoid that. And a penalty coming up. As the arm's in the air, Predators have it. Penalty going against whom? The Predators had the puck when the whistle went. Colborne's hunched over. Hutton was headed off for the extra attacker.
Weidman will get the original penalty. Colborne got hit up high by Eric Nystrom. He's trying to get a call to even it up, but it's Weidman will be going to the box. It's like for a holding. Quick feet of Nashville, creating some more havoc for the Calgary Flames. Grabbing on right there. Keep your feet moving. Weidman just getting himself back into game condition after missing all those games with the hand injury. And that's what Colborne is complaining about, the left arm of Eric Nystrom coming up and catching him up in the mouth.
Third power play of the game for the Predators, are 1 for 2 so far. Shea Weber picked up his 11th of the year in the first, briefly giving the Predators a 1-0 lead. Legwand out there. Back to Weber. Over to Yossi. Shea Weber down to Legwand. Hornquist parked in front of Rommel. Now he moves to the corner. Into the middle. Fisher stopped by the pad of Rommel. Matt Stajan can't get it by Fisher, but given right back to Butler. His attempt clears the zone. Calgary able to make a change.
It was a cause of partial of that first goal for Predators. The Flames are unable to clear that puck when they get possession. That time Matt Stajan within a foot and a half of Weber. The whole penalty kill as they switch positions.
Back at the point, Weber has it. Legwand as Hornquist shuttles his time between the high slot and right in front of Ramo. And it's a timing thing right now as Hornquist in front of Ramo and he stops Fisher's shot. Patrick Hornquist knows exactly what he's doing, doesn't he?
Well, Hornquist takes advantage of that time Lee Stepniak really favoring Weber, so almost you break that power play down even a little bit further. It'll be a 4-on-3 from that point if Stepniak is playing Weber so closely.
Predators haven't given up a shorthanded goal all season. As a matter of fact, they haven't given up a shorthanded goal since the Flames scored 2 of them in the first period in the game March 21st of last year. Seth Jones, 25 seconds to go in the power play. Jones gets it back, tries to buy some time. Down low, Cullen looking for it, checked by Brody, but makes the pass anyway. At Cullen behind the net. Spalling goes in front, comes back, shot hard by Ellis, and that one missed. And Jones will keep it in at the point. Still with it, Cullen. Back to Jones. Penalized player back out there, and Kari Ramo makes another save. Dennis Wideman out for the Flames out of the box, but with the puck and shooting it over top of the net is Smith. Smith gets it back, and he pounds it in, but Kari Ramo just standing tall right now for the Flames. He is the difference in this game.
Really is, and it's almost to the point where it's the end of a fire drill as the Predators still continue to try to keep that offensive pressure going, utilizing their best asset, I think their whole team gain, is their skating ability.
Predators with 20 shots so far in the game. 8 of them have come on the power play, 2 in that last man advantage. Gostad behind the net, picked up by Hendricks. Bounce pass to the point. Ekholm finds Stahlberg. Monahan chasing him out. Puck's intercepted. Hudler's there, chops it cross ice onto the stick of Joe Colborne. He'll slow things down, giving it back to Giordano. Captain of the Flames finds Chris Butler. Tipped in. Hudler got a piece of it. Ekholm back to get it. Watched by Monahan. Now it's played out to center. Knocked down. Shane O'Brien onto the stick of Wideman. Right up the middle, trying to spring TJ Gagliardi. Monahan tied up. Puck played in. Kari Ramo comes out. Holds it. Wideman has it. Shots 20-10 in favor of Nashville. Just past the 5-minute mark here in the second period, but we're tied at 1. That's Spoma, who had a terrific chance in the first period out there for Calgary, but it's the Predators with it. Wilson, Hornquist, loads up, shoots, and Ramo caught a piece of that. Ramo's been catching pieces enough, redirecting, really controlling his rebounds, Charlie?
He's been doing a great job. Anything time you can get a piece of it, you come up with some big saves. We'll have a look at, we talked about when Weber's taken out of the play. This is how the Nashville Predators will set up. The whole slot area is open right now. Matt Stajan on the first one's really favoring Weber, who's off to the right. So Mike Fisher gets a good opportunity right there, and this is the second opportunity. You don't see Lee Stepniak because he's out right by Weber. So Mike Fisher, who has been hot as of late, 11 points in his last 9 games, has 2 very good looks on that power play.
Shane O'Brien off the glass. Lance Spoma as it's off TJ Gagliardi's blade in behind the net, and Gagliardi first man to it. Ellis working over him. Pinching in from the point is Brody. Slips by him, but he gets it back. TJ Brody dishes it off. Shot in up high on Hutton, and he will hang on to it. 1-1 here in the second period at Bridgestone Arena. Telus Flames hockey.
On tonight's Safeway $1 million score and win, grand prize winner will receive a week of unlimited luxury at Dreams Resort, courtesy of redtag.ca. Tonight's grand prize winner is Sharon King of Red Deer. Congratulations, Sharon. Shop and swipe your club card at Safeway today, and you could be our next lucky winner.
Now the Flames and the Predators tied at 1 here in the second period. Flames send out the energy line. Ben Street to take the face-off against Gostad. Flames win it. Back to the point. Looking for McGrattan. Shot goes off a stick. And, well, I'll tell you what, Brian McGrattan coming home to a certain extent here at Nashville. Played a couple seasons. Had 2 good scoring chances tonight.
Really enjoyed his time here in Nashville. We'll get a look at some of the Flames fans. We mentioned Butler's family, Brody's family. Had some good sponsors traveling with us this 2 games, so it's good to have familiar red jerseys in the stands.
Certainly stand out more tonight than they did last night in Carolina. Pairamo directing traffic. Wideman back to get it. Puck taken away from him. Side of the net. Flames netminder can't find it. Predators have it. Comes back to the point. Ellis to Klein. Down low. Gostad is stopped by Shane O'Brien. And Victor Stahlberg tied up. Now it's Hendricks. In behind the Flames net. He'll play it to Klein. A little give and go. Comes out, shoots it, goes right through the blue paint, but it comes back to Ellis. Down low, Stahlberg to Klein. After it is Westgard. Can't get to it in time. And the Predators continue to move it around the perimeter. Shot doesn't make it through, and McGrattan has it. Flutters it ahead, Wideman. Not a lot of mustard on it, but Calgary get it out. Need to make a line change. Defensemen are trapped. Klein. Shot again goes right through the crease, but Calgary will have some room, and Ryan McGrattan rumbles ahead. Yuri Hudler has it with Backlund. His shot, and Hutton saw that all the way, and he hangs on to it.
This perfectly preserved uniform came to us via a generous donation from our champion's wife.
Pick your winners today with Pools.
Flames take advantage of a missed shot by the Predators, not only to get a shot on net for Michael Backlund, the 2 goals, a game winner last night. He gets a shot on net in that last shift. Not a very dangerous shot, as Hutton was able to see it right off the stick.
Yuri Hudler juking and jiving in the corner, plays it to the net. Penalty coming up to Fisher, and the Predators touch it. Calgary will go to the power play for the first time tonight.
Mike Fisher, one of the better penalty killers and face-off men for the Predators, will spend 2 minutes in the penalty box, takes down Michael Backlund. We talked about going to high traffic areas and keeping your feet moving, going to the front of the net. Michael Backlund coming right down the gut, stick between the legs by Fisher. And as Michael Backlund turned to face the puck, got tripped down. So Flames' first opportunity with the man advantage.
1 for 3 last night in Carolina. You were just talking about Michael Backlund. He got the game winner. He got it on the power play. Predators penalty kill 16th best in the National Hockey League. Yuri Hudler, Wideman, close quarters. The goal scorer for Calgary, Stempniak. To Hudler with speed. Yuri Hudler in, shoots. Hutton stops. Carter Hutton, very composed back there in goal for the Predators.
Great breakout by the Flames. They were very patient. A very aggressive penalty kill. Traps their own man as the puck comes through the neutral ice zone. Hudler, who started the play way at the other end, had a full head of steam as Lee Stempniak catches him with that pass. The young goaltender for Nashville looks very calm there as he comes out outside the paint. Square to the shooter. Makes the save.
Wideman down low. Hudler cross ice. Giordano shoots, and that one, I'm sure it made it all the way through.
Michael Backlund's feeling that hurt.
Oy. Picked up, shot down the ice by Gostad, and Calgary will set it up again.
No surprise, we mentioned very aggressive penalty killing by the Predators, and that play worked because of the quick passing by the Flames.
Giordano has to be careful. Spalling loses his stick, and the Flames gain the line. Wideman trying to get it over to Backlund. Played right back out by Nashville. 1 minute to go in Calgary's first power play. Giordano passes it up. Nobody home, and Jones has it. And he'll play it over, and the Predators dump it right back down into the Calgary end. Wideman, Giordano, and the Flames have 3 young forwards out there. Monahan, Byron, and Colborne. And Byron has just a hard time staying on his feet. Now he's up.
Checking his skates. Could be a skate issue as he went down twice, turning to the left.
Byron To Weidman. Shot off the wing, off the blocker. And it's picked up by Colborne at the blue line. Brody. Weidman. Back to Dennis Weidman. Has some time. Finds Paul Byron. Nice pass back to Weidman. 10 seconds to go in the power play. Weidman can't get it by Hendricks. Off the boards on a race for it. Gaustad with Byron the only man back. And Byron does a nice job of defending. He gave up size, but not will against Paul Gaustad. And the penalized player back out there for Nashville. Calgary 0 for 1 with a man advantage tonight.
Well, only 6 inches and maybe 45, 50 pounds.
Joe Colborne journeys into the Nashville end, but he's turned away. Brody back to get it. Wilson follows him. And it doesn't matter. It's an icing call, and it's coming all the way back down to the Nashville end.
Paul Byron does a great job as Weidman can't get that puck through. Little chip off the boards. Here comes Paul Gaustad. Again, a big centerman. Byron with very good position and stayed right with him as the big centerman tried to just get that puck to the center of the ice onto his offensive side on the stick side. Rameau came out to help the cause also.
Fisher and Stajan to face off, and they don't like the way Stajan's acting in the circle. He's out. Gagliardi's in. TJ Gagliardi will take the draw, and he wins it. Comes back to the point. Butler finds Boma. His shot misses. Ladislav Schmid onto the stick of Stajan. Pinned by Weber. That's Stajan just trying to push the puck free, and boy, that's an awful big defender he's got on his back in Shea Weber, and the Predators get the puck. Weber's going to join the rush. 3-on-2. Wilson has it along the wing to the middle. It's in the feet of the defender, Butler, and the shot rattled around. Goes wide. Gagliardi has it for Calgary. TJ Gagliardi cuts across the line, shoots up high. Hutton reaches up. He has it, hangs on to it. And the Flames and the Predators remain deadlocked at a goal apiece here in the second. It's TELUS Flames hockey.
Score with Optic is presented by TELUS. Share your favorite hockey photo on Instagram or Twitter and hashtag Score with Optic. You'll have a chance to win an Optic TV and Samsung prize pack valued at $12,000 or 4 tickets to an upcoming Flames home game. Visit TELUS.com/hockey for details and to view entries.
Harry Ramos faced 24 shots already tonight, just halfway over this game. 23 last night for his first career shutout. Last shutout, Rob, you mentioned, was February 18th, 2012, and it's been a long time since the other guy than Kiprusoff had a shutout, Roman Turek.
Let's call it a decade, shall we? Kind of goes to the conversation we were having earlier about Pekka Rinne being injured and how much the Predators miss him. You kind of take Mika Kiprusoff for granted sometimes, didn't you?
Goaltenders like that really can save the day and really can cover up a lot of faults that a team might have.
Lee Stempniak snapping out of a goal-scoring funk with his 7th of the year in the first period. You know he'd like to add to that total. Here's TJ Brody trying to find some middle ground. Does, and it slides into the gut of Hutton, and he'll hang on.
Hutton looked pretty relaxed tonight. He's come up with a couple big saves, most notably on Lance Bowman that first period, and always a very tough position for a young goaltender. And not that he's that young, he's 27, 28, but he's only played 22 career games in the NHL, one last year with the Chicago Blackhawks. And when you're like any other player, if you're feeling it, you're going to be playing really well. If you're not, you're going to be struggling most of the games.
Weidman, shot blocked on the way through. Westgarth chasing after it. Kevin Westgarth has it along the boards. Turns, no room to move, and it's picked up by Spalling, and he knocks Ben Street down. Haven't quite seen that same agitation from Westgarth like we did last week in Colorado. He was so effective. But with no Rich Clune in the lineup for Nashville, there's not really a lot of guys to go back and forth with.
A very different style of game, too. Nashville, more of a skating team than Colorado as far as all-out straight speed. Maybe not as talented offensively, and that's where it makes it very difficult for players like that to be that aggressive.
Ellis following up on his own shot, and that one's stopped by Kari Ramo. Little pushing and shoving going in front of the net, and just as I say that, Shane O'Brien showing us a little of that edge.
A little bit of blood into the face of Ellis, who tried to follow up on that shot. Not a lot on it, but it's a tricky kind of shot as it changes direction right there. He picks up his own rebound. There's the shot going hard at the net, and Shane O'Brien says, nope, you don't come any closer than that. Nice pickup for the Predators in Ellis. One of the 15 draft picks that they have in their lineup.
Legwand to take the face-off with Matt Stajan. Legwand wins it back to the point. Ekholm shot bounces off Stajan, and he'll play it out for Calgary to center. Quick pass ahead. Gagliardi with Boma trying to catch up legs. Boma couldn't get to it in time. Ekholm swept it away. Nice defensive play by the young defenseman for Nashville. Flipped in. This one bounces to Ramo. The easiest one he's seen tonight. He'll hang on to it. Face-offs. Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
I was going to say a bouncing puck to Ramo, but face-offs, Predators starting most of the night with possession of the puck. This time, nice little give and go. Gagliardi trying to get it to himself and missed that play, but Lance Boma following up in the play almost got to it before Ekholm, the young defenseman, came in with a good defensive play.
Just going to mention about face-offs. The Predators dominating Calgary in the first period. It's been close to even here in the second. And you've got a case of worst versus first. Predators best in the National Hockey League in face-off percentage, while Calgary toiling in 30th place.
Nice when you can have 3 of your 4 centermen well over 50% of face-offs won.
Misfired by Smith, played off the glass by Kari Ramo. There was a big giant off from the crowd when Smith missed it. Now Cullen tapping it behind the net. Legwand is there. Back to the point, intercepted. Here's Sean Monahan. Colborne catching up, 2-on-1 Calgary. Monahan shoots up high. Rebound is there, and it's by Monahan. Good job by Colborne to go to the front of the net. That puck came free, but the Flame rookie couldn't get a handle on it.
Trying to jump up into the play at 2-on-1 and was able to be the first man back skating-wise. So Colborne utilizing his size.
Looking like a young Charlie Simmer trying to split all the forwards out there. Here's Wilson.
I think that involves speed. That involves speed,
sorry,
doesn't it?
I'm thinking of somebody different. Here's Wilson with it. Into the middle. Flames have to be careful as Fisher was parked all alone at the side of the net. Not sure what happened there, but Roman Josi spun away from the puck. Calgary get it back. Here's Michael Backlund. Ahead looking for Colborne. That was a long shift for Joe Colborne. He's happy to go off, but he can't because it's an icing call.
We look at the Sean Monahan play right here. The intercept, the pass, and Colborne's trying to make this a 2-on-1. Monahan looks, waits, and does the right thing. Anytime you can get a good shot and a good scoring opportunity on net, you take advantage of it. And again, Matthias Ekholm, the young defenseman, back to try and take away that pass.
Flames win this draw. Vladislav Schmid in the corner. Michael Backlund free. Hoodler off the boards and out. Shots evening up a little bit. 25-17 in favor of the home side. Backlund. Dogged determination. Coughs up the puck for his club. Stempniak turns, shoots. And that one knocked away by Hutton. Giordano will keep it in. Yuri Hoodler plays it out in front. Brody has it. Feels a little pressure, so he'll play it low. Hoodler comes after it. It bounces right out in front. But the Predators have it as Cullen backhanding it in. Brody after it. And this one's an icing call, and it's coming all the way back down into the Predators' end.
Pro Hockey Life, the ultimate hockey megastore.
Bob Hartley, Marty Jalna. We talked about Marty Jalna played in Carolina, and wouldn't you know it, he played here in Nashville also. Plus stayed on as one of their development assistants.
Shane O'Brien shot. Bounces up in the air behind the net. And Shea Weber has it for the Predators. Out to center. Pass over. Nystrom takes a swing and he'll swat it in behind the Calgary net as Nashville getting that change they were looking for just moments ago. Steered ahead by Stajan. And this is going to be an icing call coming against Calgary.
Lance Moma trying to get that stick and laughing with the referee and the linesman. This almost like a sprinter finishing up on a 100-yard dash, trying to get his nose and the stick at least in front of everybody, but doesn't get the call there.
Now the hybrid icing. You want to try and force that tie. Does it go to the runner? Supposed to. Another face-off win for Calgary, but the puck played dangerously in front of the Flames net. Not much rest for Calgary. They fly back after this game, and they'll host the Winnipeg Jets on Thursday, into Vancouver on Saturday, and next Monday in San Jose. Bounces off a body, up and into the crowd. 1-1 here in Music City, USA.
And we'd like to remind you, Safeway's featured participating product for tonight's game is Quaker Crispy Minis or Rice Krispies.
Victor Stahlberg getting stung by one.
Well, they don't pass that like we used to pass. These passes are like rockets.
Yeah.
He's feeling the pain of that as he gets over to the box. Fortunately for him, he had a TV timeout. Really put a huge sting on him. A lot of the Brody family, Butler family here. We mentioned sponsors on the trip. Always good to see the Flaming Sea on the road as they acknowledge the veterans.
All the goals coming in the first period. Shea Weber on a power play is 11th. Lee Stempniak late in the first, his 7th, and that's where we sit. First of 3 meetings this season. The two teams hook up in Calgary in 10 days. And the puck brought in offside. There's Michael Backlund. Again, look at the A, Charlie. Wearing it well.
Just doing a great job with the A. Nashville outside of the playoffs. 45 points right now. Has been a struggle for them. Pecorini out of the lineup. 2 games under 500.
Gary Hoodler will backhand it to the red line. Bounces in front of Wilson. Turns, and again, Michael Backlund forcing the turnover. Behind the net, slipping in is Giordano. Finds Stempniak. Over to bang! Oh, that was Hoodler, not Backlund. And couldn't quite pull the trigger like he hoped. And it's fired in by Hornqvist. Giordano, watched by Fisher. Brody picking it up. TJ Brody. By Hoodler. And it's an icing call coming back down in the Calgary end. And a lot of stoppages here in the second. We talked about it when the period began. Things slowing down a little bit. Is that in favor of Calgary, do you think?
Especially the way that Nashville has been skating tonight. They've been very aggressive on their forecheck. Smaller crowd than we normally see here, but they're into this game. They're having fun. So anytime you can slow it down and you're in a tied hockey game on the road, it's to the visiting team's benefit.
Back at the point, Jones over top of the net and blocked away by Brody. Turnaround shot from Smith. Brody picks it up. This one goes to the line, but Smith there. Giordano knocks his man down, and Stempniak looking for it, and finally Calgary get it out. Giordano really ran over Bork, who was cruising in the slot area. Now Jones trying to go around Giordano, the 19-year-old, with it. Holds up, and he'll pitchfork it behind the net. Smith trying to come out in front, does, and Yuri Hoodler is there. Hoodler with some time. And Backlund, who's been out there for a while with his line mates, dumps it in, and Calgary able to make a change. The energy line over the boards for Bob Hartley. Pass way too far for Nystrom, so an icing call coming up.
Intact Insurance is proud to sponsor the Calgary Flames and all the fans who carry a torch for them. Intact Insurance, you're back.
A great story here. Barry Trotz in game number 1,162 as the Nashville Predator coach. 538 wins. He's the only coach they've ever had in Nashville as they celebrate their 15th anniversary since coming in the NHL.
Weidman tied up with Cullen, but it's Cullen with the puck. Plays it out in front. It bounces around, and Stallings' backhand just missed. McGrattan picks it up. ahead. Street couldn't get anywhere with it, but it's brought in offside, and the faceoff will be in the neutral zone as the Flames send fresh troops over the boards.
Dennis Wideman, again, still not into game condition as he gets outraced for that loose puck. Matt Cullen picking that up, and Smalling just missing that far side on the backhand on a broken play. Take advantage of a bouncing puck. Kari Ramo over very quickly, getting out to cut the angle down, forcing almost that perfect shot.
Ladislav Schmid looking for Paul Byron. Picked up, turned around, and the Predators will fire it back into the Calgary end. Schmid knocked it out of it midair, and Stahlberg has it though. Victor Stahlberg, watched by Ladislav Schmid. Hendricks still with it. He'll come back to the point. Now Ekholm looking for a lane. That one off Butler, and he's tripped up in front of the net by Gaustad. Monahan tipping it ahead. Joe Colborne has it. See Seth Jones out there. Seth Jones has been on the ice for all but one of Sean Monahan's shifts tonight, so the coach is playing the two young rookies against each other. Now the puck knocked behind the Flames net, picked up by Mark Giordano. Shots 25-18 in favor of Nashville. TJ Gagliardi after it. Ellis is there, but Flames have it. Matt Stajan to the point. Brody shoots, and it goes off a body to the corner. Boma behind the net. Kevin Klein is there. Hustling over is Gagliardi. Now Stajan rotating out of the corner. Watched by Klein. Stajan drops it. Picked up Boma. Back to the point. Brody keeps it in, but he hits Gagliardi with it. Now Klein tied up by Stajan. Ellis comes over, and the Predators attempt to exit the zone in the final minute of the second period. Puck dropped. Klein shoots, and it's blocked by a Flame. Chopped to the blue line and out. And Hornqvist will play it back into his own end. Roman Josi is there. Boma rambunctiously attacks the puck in the corner. Backlund there to assist if he possibly can, as a couple of home club guys on top of him as the puck bounces out to center, and Chris Butler is there. Now David Legwand into Calgary territory on the backhand, watched by Schmid. Puck tied up in the corner. Schmid trying to get it to Backlund, but intercepting it is Bourque off the bench, and another nice defensive gem from Michael Backlund. It seems like we keep singing his praises.
Playing both ends of the rink very well, and again, he realizing that you're under 20 seconds, you better be back as a centerman to help out your defenseman.
Puck pinned behind the goal line, and that will do it. No goals scored in the second period. 1-1 through 40 minutes of play here at Bridgestone Arena. We'll have more coming up after the break. It's TELUS Flames Hockey.
Now it's time to live the game with Windows. We head to Sportsnet.ca, and it's all about the BMO Top Prospects game tomorrow night at Scotiabank Saddledome. Sam Bennett is now the top-ranked player from Central Scouting at the midway point of the Western CHL season, and he talks in this article about the game and its importance. Interesting stuff. Live the game with Windows. Next, TELUS Flames Hockey on Sportsnet comes your way Thursday night from Saddledome as the Winnipeg Jets make their first visit of the season. It's TELUS Flames Hockey. You can see it on Sportsnet Flames Thursday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Coming up to period number 3 here in Nashville, Tennessee, in a 1-1 game. Flames trying to make it 2 for 2 in the road. Rob and Charlie are standing by.
And Lee Stempniak tied the game in the first period for Calgary. One of the assists went to Yuri Hudler. He has points in 3 games, and not surprising because he leads the Flames in points this year, Charlie, now with 38. But he really does more than just score, doesn't he?
Plays a complete game along the boards, and he gets back defensively to take a good scoring opportunity away from Nick Smalling. Back defensively again in the low slot area, picks the puck up. And what happens I like about him so well is that he's so composed once he gets that puck. Hey, not afraid to throw Shea Weber around a little bit too. But once he gets the puck, he slows things down. He's able to get that puck on the stick, making things happen. There's a good scoring opportunity off the left wing in that second period. Lee Stempniak trying to find him, and there's a great example of how he's able to thread that puck through Lee Stepniak. Yeah, it wasn't on the wheelhouse, but it was to a point he could get it on the backhand and have so much time and space to put the puck in the net.
And just look at how important he is to the overall offense of his team. Those are some pretty big names that he's ahead of.
Percentage of total points scored by his team, 13.4%. Of course, Joe Thornton's always a guy that gets a lot of points, and definitely has to be very disappointing for him not to make the Czech Olympic team, just because of what he's gone through and the type of year he's had. And Bob Hartley was quite adamant about how he felt about it, and I know his teammates also appreciate and know exactly what he does out there, game in and game out.
Erie Hoodler and the Calgary Flames enter this third period tied with Nashville at 1, and it's not like these teams are in this situation very often. This is just the 9th time Calgary's been tied heading into the third period, and just the 10th time this year that the Predators have been tied going into the third. They're either chasing or protecting. Is there a strategy? Does it benefit one team or the other to go in tied in the third period?
You'd have to think the home ice advantage would be towards Nashville, because they skate so well, they play well in this building. The style of game that they can play, they can make things happen. And of course, the Flames playing last night and having to travel.
Well, one little thing that might help, the Predators coming into the game first in the National Hockey League in faceoffs. They won 15 of 23 in period number 1. How about the Flames winning 13 of 22 in the second period? You win the puck off the faceoff, you can control the tempo, you can control the play, can't you?
Especially when you're in a tight game like this, and this is something that obviously the Flames are very used to, much like Nashville too, used to playing in very tight games, one-goal games, tied games, not a lot of offense, unfortunately, for both these clubs coming this year. So they have to work hard. They've got to find ways to win hockey games.
Face off in Calgary, and again, won by the Flames, but intercepted. Smith can't get it by Chris Butler. Now he does. Puck comes to the side of the Calgary net. Schmid is there. Rattles around, and TJ Gagliardi jumps on it. Gagliardi leading a 3-on-2. Crosses behind Boma. Shot wide. Schmid comes up. Now Weber takes a bump as Gagliardi's in there. It comes to Legwand. Ellis flying into the Calgary end. Loads up. Shoots. Scores! Ryan Ellis. 2-1 Nashville.
Saw a little bit of this young defenseman in the second period jumping up into the play. He had a lot of good shots on the power play in the first period. And this time he jumps up, loads up, getting himself up in the play, across the blue line, cuts across, and finds himself not only time and space, but a screen is set up by Craig Smith, going hard to the net. He waits, gets right to the top of the face-off circle. No forward picks him up at that point. Nobody closes the distance, and he makes a perfect shot to give the Predators a 2-1 lead.
In the lockout-shortened season, Ryan Ellis was assigned to the American Hockey League in the last half of the year, so he spent it in the AHL. He has come back and responded very well. That's his second goal of the season. He's already in a career situation when it comes to points, and most importantly, he's given the home side a lead here early in the third period. How will the Flames respond? Jones knocked down by Byron, not the response the Flames were hoping for, as now Nashville will go to the power play for the 4th time in the hockey game.
Miscommunication here by the Flames. They have control of it. Shane O'Brien trying to make the right play. The play gets broken down, and that's where the penalty occurs, as the Predators really holding their defenseman inside the blue line. Right here, staying inside the blue line was Seth Jones. Had position on Paul Byron. And there's where the stick gets into the skate of the young defenseman. And so talk about build-up of momentum. Predators score a goal, and they get on the power play.
Just 22 seconds after the Predators had taken the lead for the second time in this hockey game, they get their 4th man advantage. They're 1 for 3 tonight. Legwand, watched by Matt Stajan. And Legwand buying a little time. And here comes Bourque. Now behind the net, Butler. Yossi is there. Leguan can't get to it. Chris Butler can. Backlund for Calgary has Bowman. He's going to head off, so Backlund alone by himself. His shot high over top of the net. Matt Cullen intercepted by Backlund, and he again buys the Flames penalty killers some more time.
Being aggressive, again, not allowing the Predators to set up, and that's when they're most dangerous on the power play, getting either Ellis or Jones or Shea Weber shooting from the point.
Predators don't like the way things are setting up. Now they do. That last goal, Ellis is second from Leguan and Klein. David Leguan 2 assists in the hockey game. Back to the point, Jones shoots, and Ramo can't get a handle on it. 3-1 Nashville. Smith scores on the power play.
Seth Jones does a great job of holding the puck all the way up to the neutral ice zones, get things set up, and this is a basic, simple kind of play. Get the puck on the net, and right here it goes back to the point. Jones shoots. Ramo thinks he has it. He gets bumped as he's trying to cover up the puck. It slips through. Spaulding is in front, and you can see the recipient, Craig Smith. Doesn't get any easier than that for him as he adds to his goal total of 14.
So 2 quick goals by Nashville here in the third period. They're up 3-1. Second power play goal of this game. Barry Trotz talking about the importance of getting the man advantage working this morning, and it looks like it is. As Klein over, Ellis shot tipped over top of the net. Now Eric Nystrom, as Dennis Weidman watching him. Turning away is Stahlberg, still with it. Up top, Gostad shot into the glove of Ramo. As Eric Nystrom was right in the blue paint on top of the Flames netminder.
Explosive team, Nashville, when you give them the opportunity, really jumped on that rebound. This is a broken play, back to the point. We've seen this quite often. Nystrom trying to set up a screen. This time, Ramo's able to battle himself and get outside the blue paint to get around the veteran Nystrom.
Backlund in to take the draw. It bounces right to Ramo. Giordano with it. Up the middle. Stempniak couldn't handle it, but Backlund there. Oh, and Wilson and Giordano nearly collided. Fisher breaks the stick trying to make the shot. Weber to Wilson. Fisher heads off to get a new piece of lumber. Yossi's shot stopped by Ramo. Big rebound and picked up by TJ Brodie. Flames travel across the blue line. Brodie, he'll give chase. Trying to get around Weber, and Weber might be getting a penalty here. As TJ Brodie tried to get the puck that he dumped in, and the captain of the Predators got in the way.
Shea Weber not happy with that. Looking at Brodie. Brodie kind of helped himself out on that call as he was able to get around him, but then he kind of latched onto Weber. A little bit of a snicker maybe from TJ Brodie. Knows he gets away with one right here. Here comes Brodie. There's a little bit of a grab, a little bit of a spin, and Brodie goes down very quickly. Stick right between the legs. A little bit of an old-fashioned corkscrew, and then Brodie jumps up in the air, little spin, and gets away with it.
Just the second power play of the game for the Flames. But considering the situation, they need to make this one count, don't they, Charlie?
To get themselves back to within one. Huge power play. And still, so much time left on the clock. 16:08, so lots of time. The Flames have been used to playing within a one-goal game, so they'd feel pretty comfortable if they could score here.
Monahan take the face-off, wins it from Gostad. Weidman at the point, moves it. Down low, Colborne. It comes to Giordano. Back to Weidman. It rattles around, but he'll get it back to Joe Colborne. Paul Byron to Weidman with some room. Now over, shot, bounces through, looking for it, they score! Mark Giordano, but they're saying it's knocked down with a high stick. The goal apparently will be reviewed, or has it already been called off, Charlie?
They're having a discussion here at this point. They're calling it knocked down with a high stick. Flames definitely don't agree with that, especially Mark Giordano. The linesman very quick on that call. Bob Hartley wants to have it is looked at, and it's not reviewable right here. It's up in the air. Mark Giordano reaching up, knocked it down originally, comes right back to him. Take another look at this. It goes off the heel of Monahan after Giordano touched it. Just a better look here to see how high that stick is, or the puck is. That comes up off the stick right here. The shot comes pretty close. Very quick play. Linesman up ice makes the call very quickly.
We'll see how the Flames deal with the disappointment of having that waved off. Still 1 minute and 20 to go in the power play. Backlund across the line. Back. Weidman shoots. Hutton kicks that away. Stempniak to Giordano. Over to Weidman. Hudler. Giordano can't get the shot through. Now he does, and Hutton will smother it.
We'll have another look at this play. There's Mark Giordano still unhappy. He's still barking at the linesman right here. Shot comes, this is after the deflection already. The shot originally came from Hudler. He fanned on it as it went up high in the air. Here's the look, we'll have a look at. There's the shot, it's up in the air. Touched there, down it goes, off of Monahan. Giordano picks it up very quickly, puts it in the top of the net. But they were not going to get that call.
And a timeout has been called as Bob Hartley is rallying the troops around and drawing up some plans.
Plus it gives the number one offensive guys just a little split-second extra rest. They still have time on the power play. 1 minute and 1 seconds to the Shea Weber tripping call.
So Calgary burning their timeout. Shots are 31-20 in favor of the Predators. 2 goals 1 minute and 45 seconds apart in the third period. Ellis from Legwand and Klein. And then on the power play, Craig Smith, his team-leading 14th for Nick Spalling and the rookie Seth Jones. That's where we sit here in the third. Flames still with 1:01 to go in a Shea Weber minor. Gaustad and Backlund facing each other in the circle. Calgary come up with it. Backlund pestered on the play by Klein. Yossi's going to jump on it, has some room, fires it, and this one will go all the way down into Calgary territory.
Nashville not giving up on their hustle, pursuing those loose pucks along the boards. And that's when you have to have the communication of the Flames players for supporting each other.
Josi and Stempniak tie up. Klein with Hudler. Puck comes right out in front. And the Predators couldn't get it out. Gaustad tried. Josi, oh, that was up high, and Giordano had to bail out. That could have been horrific. Joe Colborne goes wide. Watched by Bourque. It comes back to Giordano. Winds up, shoots, and it rattles off Hutton into the boards and comes back down to the Flames blue line. 5 seconds to go in the penalty to Shea Weber. He's standing up and ready to come back out on the ice. Calgary 0 for 2 at the power play tonight. Giordano across the line. Hudler back looking for Monahan. Takes it away from Jones. Monahan pass intercepted. Weber with it. The captain just lays it into the Flames end. Calgary get it back. Colborne wide open down the left side. Joe Colborne lines up, and the shot turned away by Hutton. Butler can't keep it into the blue line. And it's going to be an icing call against the Preds.
Mark Giordano being very aggressive. The top of your screen, he's going to be aggressive, trying to hold that line right here as he's holding line, and then just ducks right at the last second. The shot is coming. This is a penalty kill. Just gets out of the way in time. That was up high around the shoulders.
Not unlike Hornquist parked in front of Ramo on that power play goal Weber scored in the first. O'Brien will give it back to Dennis Weidman. Weidman only played 14:05 in Carolina last night, the fewest amount of minutes he's played as a member of the Calgary Flames in a game. Now Gagliardi gets it to Stajan. Flames need 2. Ellis out to center. He has the luxury of just taking his time and dumping it in. He'll head off.
Well, it's a completely different ball game for Nashville right now when they're up by 2, especially the way they can play defensive hockey. They're just trying to keep the Flames away from the offensive zone. They still have a young goaltender in between the pipes.
Jones watched by Hudler. Finds Weber. Stretch pass for Gaustad. He just lifts the leg. Allows it to go by. No icing. Chris Butler up the middle. It bounces. Weber knocks it down, and he'll play it right back into Calgary territory. This will be an icing call.
This is a replica of the remote that inspired the big win. The original was tragically lost in a couch.
Pick your winners today with Tools.
Vladislav Schmid and the rest of the Flames a little frustrated by the turn of events here in the third period. Now Victor Stahlberg charging into the Calgary end. Shot goes wide. Picked up along the near side and played back down by Gaustad, but stepping in front of it is Brody. Predators won't let Calgary out. Nystrom knocked down at the side of the net. Giordano with it. Trying to lead Byron with the pass. And Jones back to get it, just 19 years old, the 4th overall pick in the June draft. One time projected to be the consensus number 1, but fell into the laps of the Nashville Predators, and they're happy to have him. That's Stajan. Gains the line. He'll play it around the boards. Boma has the puck, goes back to the point. Weidman shoots, and that one just dribbled wide. Ekholm off the boards. Wilson. Nice tip to Jones. Lead pass and a breakaway. In alone. Hornqvist off the post. And that one went right up into the crowd. The Flames catch a break, if you can call it, being down by 2 in the third. Could have been down by 3, but the post helping out Calgary. Game review brought to you by Intact Insurance. Your home, your auto, your business. Ask your broker about Intact Insurance Company.
Slump busted by the slump buster. Lee Stepniak, his first goal in his last 18 games. Gone hunting. The Predators, 2 quick goals. Ellis and Smith, 1:45 apart in the third period, and it ain't so. Weber, his 8th power play goal of the season, got the Predators off to a good start in the first period.
Weber now leading NHL defenseman with 11 goals on the year. Craig Smith takes the puck to the boards. Roughed up by Butler. Bourque is there. His shot goes up high on Schmid, and Ramo has to come out and help out as Schmid a little slow responding. Looks like he's okay. He'll stay out. Boma trying to gain the line, but Ellis with a nice stick took the puck away. Calgary trapped offside. We're starting to see a few cracks, frustration showing through for the Flames a bit.
Very frustrating, and they realize that they have to try and get, start with 1, get within 1. We can see how Nashville, they're a fragile team right now. They can't and have not been winning a lot of hockey games, haven't been scoring a lot of goals. They do have 3 tonight, but again, their goaltending too also is suspect at this point. It's like Schmid is okay as the icing call. Unfortunately for him, he can't get off the ice. Looks like the follow-through of the stick of Bourque came up and clipped his helmet.
Now Paul Byron a little late to the face-off. That's going to buy the Flames a little bit of time resting the guys on the ice. Fisher and Backlund, and Fisher wins it. Weber for Nashville. Hornqvist takes a bump from TJ Brody. Backlund digs the puck. Cross center. Pushes it in. Byron chasing after it, won't get to it before Weber can. Now Fisher to Wilson. And the puck out at center as Josi was jumping up. Couldn't make a handle on it, so Calgary get it back. Nearing the midway point of the third, Flames trail by 2. Brody brings it in, loses control. Fisher with it, and the Predators are back the other way. Nashville on the attack. Brody back. Gets it away from Stahlberg, but Spalling is there now. Calgary will flip it up. And across the red line, big Paul Gaustad, longtime member of the Buffalo Sabres, hits that Jones with the pass and shot high and wide. Kevin Westgarth to Joe Colborne. Colborne off the end of Gaustad's stick, and he chases it. Stahlberg's there. Calgary get it back. Monahan to Colborne. So Westgarth added to this line to give it a little beef, give it a little size here in the third period.
Bob Hartley trying to utilize as many players and weapons that he does have on the bench. It's difficult. And you mentioned earlier the frustration level has to come into effect right now because of the way Nashville does play once they get the lead.
Predators control it at the blue line. They score! Oh, a hot shot from Ellis. Not sure if it was tipped on the way in, but the Preds are up 4-1.
Unfortunately for Ramo, he's had a lot of jerseys standing in front of him, whether it's Legwand, Bourque. Ellis finds the shot. Legwand, number 11, is standing along the boards, and as it moves around, gets it back to the point. Here comes the screen set up in front. Good hard shot. Ellis lets it go in a hurry. Legwand drawing people over the shot right from the boards. But two Predator players standing right in front of Ramo. His top shelf again, far corner. And the Predators with a big lead now, 4-1.
Hard to believe that Ellis came into this game with just one goal when we've seen the shot that he is unleashed here in the third period. He's got a howitzer, doesn't he?
Well, he had a couple very good shots in that first period on the power play, on the second look power play. Getting players in front of the net is so important. And Nashville with the 2-goal lead. Stahlberg was standing in front.
Nashville have it in their own end.
Obviously, and Bourque, too, standing in front of net. So looked like it might have changed direction.
Brian Ramo will play it along the boards to the blue line, and it's played right back in by Seth Jones. 8:41 to go here in the third period. Calgary down by 3, a period which started tied at 1, but Nashville asserting itself on home ice. Stajan. Not a lot of room, but he does find O'Brien. Can't handle the pass. He comes back out in the neutral zone. Just seems like every time a Flames player has the puck, there's 2 or 3 of those mustard yellow jerseys right on top of him. Now the former Predator, O'Brien, down below the goal line. Trying to protect it from Shea Weber. Stahlberg comes in. Ben Street lost his stick. He'll head off. Brian McGrattan comes in to try and even the odds, and the Predators have the puck. This one off the glass is Westgarth going for the big hit on Hendricks, but he missed. O'Brien comes right up the middle, hits the red line. He'll play it in. Flames will have to go retrieve the puck. Hutton quickly moves it, and the Predators will exit the zone. Fisher off the boards. Calgary get it back. Giordano up to the line, but Hudler couldn't quite get it where he needed it to go. Fisher flipping it in. And here comes Yuri Hudler. Calgary and Nashville will meet 10 days from now at the Dome. Now Stempniak finds Yuri Hudler. Watched by the rookie Jones. Hudler had the official in his way. Not a lot of room there for Yuri Hudler to move. Michael Backlund coming out of the corner, dips his shoulder, scores! Oh, Michael Backlund with a fabulous goal, and the Flames are within 2.
Good individual effort by Michael Backlund. Good pursuit of those loose pucks along the boards as he's driving hard to the net. He loses the puck, but he's able to kick it back up to himself with his skate. Giordano keeps it along the boards. Here comes Backlund. Now he's walking to the front of the net. He loses it, gets it back off the toe, and then very quickly he's able to put it in behind the goaltender Hutton. Takes advantage of a break there, and the Flames now 4-2.
That's a power move, Charlie, coming out of the corner, wasn't it?
He's been skating very well as of late, and you can see him start to even pull away from some of the Predator players tonight when he's coming up the ice, and that's exactly what he has to do. If you can do that in the offensive zone, you're going to create some opportunities.
Backlund picking up his 8th of the year and his 3rd goal in 3 games, all of them consecutive, so he's got a streak going along with Yuri Hudler. Monahan gets it deep, Colborne after it. Don't think it's that big of a reach to suggest the Flames need to try and score right away here. Keep the momentum. And the puck knocked down with a high stick. Calgary down by 2 in Nashville. Telus, Flames hockey.
Telus Flames hockey on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Telus. The future is friendly.
With Michael Backlund picking up his 8th of the year, Kathy Lowen of Cochrane swiped a free club card, and on behalf of Safeway and Quaker Crispy Minis or Rice Cakes, she's won a $250 gift card from Visions Electronics. Flames back within 2. But late stages of the 3rd need offense and need it in a hurry. Now Brody turns up ice. Over to Hudler. So it was Backlund. The assists go to Mark Giordano and Yuri Hudler. So Yuri Hudler working on a 2-point evening. Stepniak after it. Weber's there first. Wilson will clear it. And a foot race. Brody back to get it. Looks like it'll be an icing call against Nashville. And a face-off, an important one for Calgary.
Pretty safe to say Bob Hartley really will be shortening up the bench. 5:43 to go, down by 2. Look for maybe 2 full lines to get the majority of the ice time the rest of the night. The important thing, obviously, is you can't give up another one. You've gotten yourself back to within 2. There is time and opportunity, but you can't give up the next one.
Weidman shot hits Hutton up high, and the rebound comes all the way back towards the blue line. And it's shuttled down the ice by the Predators. Another icing call as Dennis Weidman got a hard shot in from the blue line.
Good face-off 1-2 when you get into that offensive zone. You look at the face-off percentages. Nashville, you mentioned the #1 total in the NHL. That's at 59.4%. Such a big, fine art of the game right now.
In fairness to Joe Colborne, he's 3rd amongst NHL rookie centermen. And now he's playing the wing. Matt Stajan into the middle, and Gagliardi's shot tipped over top of the net. Flames with good pressure since getting that Backlund goal. Need to find a way to beat Hutton. Weidman can't get it through, and it's picked up. David Legwand has it. Legwand picked up an assist on Stahlberg's goal to make it 4-1. So Legwand with 3 assists tonight. That gives him 30 points in 46 career games against Calgary.
Mr. Predator's been there as long as Barry Trotz has been. Yep, first draft pick ever of the Predators, who are celebrating their 15th year.
His name is all over their record book. Here's Joe Colborne. His pass broken up neatly by Gaustad. You could hear Matt Stajan call for it, but Gaustad got that stick flat on the ice. 4.5 minutes to go. Butler, a cross shot. Hutton saw it all the way. He'll hang on to it. And it almost seems, Charlie, that the Predators are in prevent defense. Well, we'll find out. Flames need to perhaps kick a field goal. They're down by 2 in Nashville.
I'll stay tuned. Immediately following our game, we'll head to Dallas Oilers hockey as the Edmonton Oilers are taking on the Dallas Stars. 4-2, the Stars lead in the 3rd period. We'll head there immediately following our telecast.
Michael Backlund to take the draw for Calgary. He is the hottest Flame of late. Goals in 3 consecutive games, including his 8th here in the 3rd period to draw the Flames within 2. Giordano's shot goes off Patrick Hornqvist and into the crowd. Face-off stays down in the Predators' end. And as we went to break, Charlie, I kind of made the football analogy. The Predators kind of backed off a bit here. They're kind of protecting the lead.
They're protecting it, but they're not giving up any dangerous opportunities. They're putting their confidence in their young goaltender Hutton to make the routine saves from the perimeter, which he should be making them if he's playing here in the National Hockey League.
Fisher Shot tipped in front. Hornquist tried to use his chest to knock the puck down. Kind of a soccer play. Comes back to Hornquist, side of the net, and Fisher just missed. So as I accuse the Predators of playing kitty by the barn door, all of a sudden they create some offense.
Well, what they can do, they can just sit back and just wait for the Flames to gamble. They're the ones that have to get back, trailing by 2, and then try to take advantage of those opportunities.
Waved off icing, so the Predators get the puck back. Wilson drops it for Seth Jones. Just sits with the puck. Why not waste time? Legwand tips it in. Mentioned he has 3 assists. That's a season high for him. Ties his season high of points, though. He had 3 already this year, but 3 helpers. As David Legwand seems to play well every time Calgary comes to this building. Ben Street elevated as he's out there with TJ Gagliardi and Matt Stajan. Shane O'Brien goes wide, backhands it in. Hutton comes out. 3 minutes to go. Flames trailing by a pair. Ben Street to the corner. Gagliardi after it, along with Street. Chopped along the boards. Weidman is there. Street comes in, but right place, right time. Ellis, but he can't get out. Good work by Ben Street on the back check.
Type of player you need in a situation like this. Hungary, obviously, trying to make his footing here in the National Hockey League. Had some good numbers with the American League team.
33 points in 31 games to lead the Abbotsford Heat at the time of his recall. Nystrom comes out in front, and he forced it through the blue paint. No harm, no foul. Byron across the line. Taken away and shot back down by the Predators. This one appears to be an icing call as Brody back. And a face-off coming up in the Nashville end. 2:09 to go.
Coming to the time where you really have to start gambling as they make the motion, and Kari Ramo is going to the bench. Face off to the right, and it looks like a double move as Barry Trotz calls timeout to set up his defensive play. You look at some of the players that have come through Nashville. Barry Trotz, the only coach in recent times that has had his team in the playoffs 7 of the last 9 years. And you kind of look at these guys as the Montreal Expos of the NHL, where they develop all these good young players, and they can't afford to keep them in the small market here. So he's done a great job his whole career coaching here in Nashville.
Had a chance to talk to Barry today, talking about Seth Jones at 19. Is it different developing a young rookie defenseman as opposed to a forward? He had a great line. He said, the further you get away from the goal, the more mistakes you can get away with. And he followed it up by saying, if you're a goalie, you can't really make a lot. Defenseman, if you're a forward, you can play a little further away. You get away with a little more.
And it's been a common game plan here in Nashville. Their defensemen, they have Shea Weber, had Ryan Suter, Ellis, and now Jones is the new up-and-coming guy. They have to build their club from the defense out.
Extra attacker out for the Flames, down by 2. Predators come up with the puck off the draw, but the Flames swarm. Along the boards, Yuri Hudler with it. Back to the point, but it misses the intended target, Giordano, and he retreats to pick it up. Clock ticking now at 1:50 here in the third. Long stretch pass. Stempniak to Hudler. Yuri Hudler along the boards, now behind the net. Looks out to the middle. Weidman had snuck in from the point. He pitchforks it over to Stajan, and it bounces out in front. Predators have it. They've got time. They've got numbers. They've got an empty net as Hendricks goes over, and what he doesn't have is an angle. So he's just going to freeze the puck. Ali Stempniak back to Weidman. 1:15 to go. Stajan gains the attacking zone. Pulls up. Flames send fresh troops out. Backlund is there. Goes to the corner. 1 minute to go. Butler to Brody. Down low. Hudler, 2 assists in the hockey game. And now we've got a wrestling match in front of the net. Seth Jones is on top of a Flame.
They were just, I tell you what, 2 headlocks on each other. As Michael Backlund had spun off the near side boards, tried to get to the front of the net, and both players had themselves each in a headlock as they went to the front of the net, and in a wrestling match right in the low slot area. You have a look at that. Seth Jones, much taller of the players. Michael Backlund, quite a competitor this year. Walking out of the bottom of your screen, there's the push, the shove. One headlock, second headlock, and then spin around, take down, a little wrestling match at that point. That's just good old-fashioned competition right there for that loose puck. And space on the ice. And you talked about Michael Backlund really relishing that A on his chest, and see him battling just to get to the front of the net. And the young defenseman, Seth Jones, following through.
Both players picking up minors. Now, they're escorting Backlund over to the penalty box. I thought, did they not escort Jones off the ice?
Jones left the ice. I'm not sure if they're calling an extra. It looked like they were both 2 minutes each.
Yeah, there's only 4 Predators on the ice, and there's an extra attacker. There's only 4 Flames. I don't see where there's an extra up on the board right now. 5 on 4 with the net empty. Less than 50 seconds to go. Calgary down by 2. Hoodler to stage it in front. It rattles around, comes back out in the neutral zone. Giordano with it. Stempniak. Back to the point. Mark Giordano. Shot, traffic, doesn't make it through. Weber has it with an empty net. Dishes it off. And the Flames will get it back, attacking with numbers. Here they come. Hoodler finding the trailer. Brody shoots, and he whipped it wide. And now Nystrom with a chance at the empty net. And this looks like it's going to be an icing call. Brody back to get it. 8.9 seconds left. Pretty tough to score 2 in that time allotment.
Flames had a couple good looks on this situation. One, they couldn't hit the net, and the second, block shots. Nashville really realizing how important this win is. Mark Giordano really comes out of nowhere to take that puck away from Eric Nystrom. It was a pass through to Brody. Shot went wide. And after that, it was a block shot.
One last chance. Wyman shoots over top of the net. Butler gets it into the corner, but that will do it. The Predators snap their mini 2-game home losing skid as the Flames fall 4-2 to Nashville. A game in which was tied 1-1 after 40. Charlie, it really was a great demonstration of the offense the defense can produce here in Nashville.
Good skating club by both teams, and tough luck for the Flames in the third.
So the Flames, after a 2-0 victory last night in Carolina, they fall 4-2 to Nashville. They go home. They'll play Winnipeg on Thursday as the Nashville Predators, led by David Legwand's 3 assists. Coming up next, we take you to Dallas.